Hi, this is just a quick and dirty tutorial on making some of the finer tuned face adjustments for Create a Wrestler. And this is one that I downloaded and I was just going to demonstrate. It's actually, I think, a pretty well done one as far as they go, but I just wanted to demonstrate some common problems and how they can actually be pretty easily fixed now. Older versions of the game made this a lot harder to fix after the fact. You often had to start from scratch, but you can actually make some of the finer adjustments after the fact fairly easily. So just to talk about the specific things that I was going to give tips on how to fix, you'll notice the eyes don't quite line up with the face photo. The inner corners in particular would theoretically need to be down a bit. You'll notice that you get this sort of double line happening on the nose, which is what happens when the nose doesn't quite line up with the face photo. And you'll also notice that on the mouth that the corners curve down on the actual face, but the face photo, they curve up slightly. And that misalignment actually becomes a lot more noticeable when you're looking at the in-game animations. So to adjust all of those the easiest way possible, you can do this now. You did not used to be able to do this. In 2K23, you had to start from scratch to regain access to the full range of adjustments that you can make. But now you can actually do it fairly easy from the deformation menu. They've actually allowed you to go into the facial region and make the same kinds of adjustments that you're allowed to make when you first attach the face. So 2K25, or maybe 2K24, I never played that one, did actually fix this problem, or at least made it a lot easier to deal with. So we're going to start with the eyes, and this is done using the D-pad on console for joysticks, and you do need to be a bit careful because as soon as you click on one of these or start moving the thumbstick, you will actually be adjusting the item itself. I'm not going to do it now for the purpose of demonstrating, but if I were to push the left thumbstick to the left, that eye would start moving to the left, and we don't want that. So you have to be very careful not to touch the thumbsticks and just use the D-pad. That's probably one of the reasons why people are very nervous about trying to use this system. Press the A button or equivalent on any system, and we happen to be defaulting to the exact point we want. Now, I practiced on this face once before doing this, so I already know we're not going to be able to get that down far enough to fully line up, but we can get as close as we can, and that's it. So you can see it came down slightly, but didn't quite line up. That's okay. I already knew we weren't going to get to the bottom, but it's an improvement, and it already looks like it lines up better than it did before. So now we're back in the basic menu. We're going to use the D-pad to click over to the other eye. We will default to the same location, and this one actually should adjust all the way down, and it does. So that one lines up a little bit better. And we're not going to make any other adjustments. The rest of that's more easily handled with makeup, and I'll show that at the end. So now that we can see the whole eye is flashing, we're back to the D-pad to switch to one of these. We're going to switch to the nose. And what you want specifically is once you're in the nose, make sure that the point that you're on is the nostril corner like this. And then we're going to move it to the side. But this one's actually lined up a bit better. So what we're going to do first is we're going to switch to the other side, and we're going to move that one. See how extreme it needs to be. And it came down a bit and came to the left a bit. Didn't quite perfectly line up, but as you can see, it is a lot better. But also, it's pretty misaligned with the one on the right. But since we know we went as far down and to the left as we could, we know that to make the right one line up, we just need to go back in. Click over to the right one. Nope. Wait, I screwed up. Hang on. Even I still forget sometimes that you have to switch between the D-pad and the button very carefully. Okay, and now all the way down and to the right, and now they will match in terms of their width on either side. The rest of the nose adjustments are going to be done in the next screen. We're not going to do it here, so we move on to the mouth. And to make these lines adjust here is also still tricky, but definitely manageable. Uh-oh. I can't quite tell if I'm on the whole mouth or on one of the points. Okay, I'm on one of the points. Good. The mouth is not moving as a whole. This is, I think, why people are nervous about doing this, because they really did make it quite tricky. Okay, that's one corner. I'm going to do the left corner first. So we're going to move the left corner, and because I practiced this earlier, I know this isn't going to quite line up right. So now that I've made that adjustment, we've actually had a bit of a misalignment to the section of the mouth just next to it. That's okay. We're going to click over once or twice or a bunch of times. There we go. Now this just needs to calm down slightly to line up again. There. Now if you look really closely, it looks like it's lined up a lot better, and it is. So now we can use the D-pad to click back over to the right corner of the mouth. This one, we just need to adjust the corner, at least based on the first time I did it. So we just bring that up so that it lines up like that. And it is a little bit misaligned, but chances are it won't get any closer. If I click it along, it's better to just leave it as is. So A button to get back to the mouth. Now if we zoom out, we can click through with accept. And now all the post adjustments should be there. The mouth corner is a little bit slightly different on one side versus the other. I don't mind that. If you do, you can always make some adjustments to get them to line up. So for example, we could go into the facial region again. We could click over to this mouth, find the point on the right corner, there it is, and just push to the right to make it go as far to the right as we can, or a little further to the right. Then back out a bit, adjust up once, come back in a little bit. Okay, now it looks like they're about the same length as each other, and I think that works a bit better. So again, click through, and yeah, now it's slightly higher on the one side, and they don't quite line up perfectly, but you're never going to get that exactly right. It's definitely closer than it was. So now we click through, and to get some of that back to where it was, we go back into facial deformation, we pick structure, and we're going to pop down to the nose. We're going to specifically pick nostrils. And what we're looking for is left nostril width. We're going to reduce that because we made it bigger. So to get the face back to more or less what we wanted it to be, I'm going to guess that 20 should do the trick. Find the corresponding one on the other side, right nostril height, move that down to 20. They should line up. And then click through. And yeah, the nostrils are a little misaligned. It's hardly perfect, but we did get rid of those lines. So what we can do now is we can go back in and we can make some other adjustments and probably bring some of that. Actually, sometimes you can pull this off. So let me just try manually coming down to right. Oh, I understand what I did wrong. We want that back up to 30. I screwed that up. I was in the wrong one. Here we go. This should work. Yeah, I didn't think that happened last time. There we go. Now we click through. Okay, now things are lined up. I accidentally did height instead of width, so that's the kind of thing you need to pay attention to. And again, it's not lined up perfectly, but it is a distinct improvement. So the only remaining thing that's fairly obvious and will show up in animations is that you can see that the eye for the original face photo has markings that obviously are relics of the eyelashes and makeup from the original photo. And when we click back to everything in this lining up, which will happen just here, and zoom back into the face, we can see that one of the ways that the original creator of this dealt with this was using those eyelashes. That's definitely one way to do it, but you can also notice that if you look at it from the wrong angle, the original markings still look a bit weird and don't line up with things. So we're going to do our best to try and fix that. And to do that, we have to go into the individual attire. Which is a bit of a slow load, unfortunately. And what we're going to do in here is we're going to select a makeup style. To separate these, I'm going to do my adjustments on the entrance, then you can compare them afterwards if you want to. So what we were doing before was global. It will affect all outfits for the character because it's the core structure of the face. And as you can see that now the mouth does not have the obvious misalignment anymore. We don't have the double line that's really obvious on the nose, and the inner eye corners now line up a lot better. So all we have left to really try and do is go into Appearance, select Hair and Facial Parts, which is where you find the makeup and the eyelashes and everything else. And now we're going to pop down. And this eye makeup, in theory, does sort of what we're looking for, but it just isn't big enough to get the job done. And I actually originally, when I was practicing this before, went through all of the different eye makeup, and none of them quite do a good job of covering up this alignment. But the one that I found came closest. Was it this one or the one underneath it? There it is. This is the one I settled on before. Now, you may not necessarily want something quite that visually, depends on what you're going for. Maybe you wanted something a bit more subtle. Maybe you wanted something that's really garish. If you wanted an easy time solving this problem, you could just pick something like this. Problem solved. This will do it as well. This one will definitely cover it. So any of these, if you're looking for something a little bolder in terms of the eye makeup, all of those will work. But if you wanted to try and find something subtle, this was the only one I could find that covered up the markings on both sides. But obviously the colors are a bit more stylized. So if you wanted something a bit more subtle, like what would actually just be standard makeup, one of the first adjustments to make is to come in here, take the yellow, and just replace it with a generic black. And that's the fine-tuned stuff that you see closer to the eye. This other one here covers a bit more of the eyeshadow side of things. So if you wanted to make that look a little bit more like something someone would put on before going out for the evening or something, you'd want to start with a color scheme that's a bit more purple and then make adjustments. And the way I would make these adjustments would be to increase the color boldness, reduce the overall scale a bit like this, and as luck would have it, I already did that a little earlier during my practice section, and that's the color right there that I settled on. So with this, you get some of the blue and the purple that gives it the eyeshadow look, so it's a little more subtle compared to the sort of bright colors that were happening before, and looks a little bit more like something you might wear it for the evening. So it's just a question of taste. But for the smaller sized eye makeup, you'd want to make some of those color adjustments to make things sort of line up a bit better. And now that we've done that, you can pop out. And one last thing I do want to mention before leaving this screen is opacity is actually really useful when you're doing things like lipstick for making the color of the lipstick blend a bit with the color of the skin in the background. But in our case, that would not help because the color in the background that we're trying not to show is the original markings for the eye. So opacity would actually undo a lot of the work that we're doing in this case. So we don't want to adjust it here. But if you're trying to make eye makeup or lipstick blend a bit more with the flesh color in the background, it's opacity that you want. You want to reduce that. I also decided after glancing earlier that I think these face tattoos do not actually enhance the blend as well as the original creator thinks they do, so I actually think that the face blends a bit better without them. So having popped those out, I'm now satisfied that we get a better overall look. So popping back in, this is the one with the adjustments that we just made to the eyes. And you can compare that to what they looked like before we made the adjustments. And you might prefer the original look, and if you do, then you don't need to worry about this step. Anyway, I will do a more in-depth version of that at another time. I just wanted to give a quick example of how to make some of these trickier adjustments in the face. And that ended up being 14 minutes almost, and I only wanted it to be